Just checking. And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Sheleads in Tech webinar. I'm Lydia Egoche, founder and host of this community where we exist to showcase and spotlight the talents and achievements of women in the tech industry. In our webinar today, we'll be delivering an introduction to cybersecurity led by our guest speaker, Karizma Hanshaw, a cybersecurity analyst. And our lives are now increasingly dependent on online transactions. It's really important to understand the fundamentals of cybersecurity and important to keep ourselves and our data safe online. So without much ado, I will hand over to Karizma to introduce herself and take us away in this intro. Thank you for being here, Karizma.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, Lydia. So my
Sure.
name is Karizma Hanshaw, and I'm a cybersecurity professional. I've been doing cybersecurity for almost a year now. So I've just been using this time to really advance my career and my skill set and my knowledge, and just learn everything that I can about cybersecurity. Um, I joined a program called by the name of CyberX Elite, ran by William, and it's an amazing program. Within the 3 weeks of the program, I landed a IT systems analyst role, and it kind of goes hand in hand with some of the tools or skill sets that I will be utilizing when I do land a cybersecurity role. So the program has just been really good with helping me upskill and learn new terminology, new breaches or attacks, anything that occurs within the cybersecurity sector.
Thank you, Charisma. And I didn't say in the beginning you are joining us today from across the pond. Can you remind me, or remind us rather, where you're based?
I am in Houston, Texas.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, no massive time difference between the
Yes.
UK where I'm based and you are. So thank you so much for being here on the webinar with us today. So we're going to jump straight into our first question, which I will pop straight on the screen. Um, what is cybersecurity?
So, cybersecurity is the process of protecting your networks, computers, and systems from cyber attacks, and it also includes protecting any other electronic devices. So, that could be a camera, a CCTV, even a printer, just from being attacked. So, cyber attacks such as ransomware attacks, malware can infect your devices, and also your personal information being breached.
Thank you. And what are some of the benefits of cybersecurity?
The benefits of cybersecurity would be, the protecting of your personal information, protecting your networks and systems from being hacked, stolen, hackers gaining unauthorized access.
Okay. And how does that help us? So there are lots of different terminologies in the cybersecurity world around, people getting access to information they shouldn't have. So how would you describe that process? I mean, is there a difference between being exposed to a threat of getting your data hacked, or being vulnerable to being hacked, or carrying the risk of
Yeah.
being hacked?
And so a threat would be, well, I'll start with a risk. So a risk is your risk of being exposed to a cyber attack, and a vulnerability is the weaknesses within your system that can be exploited, which means that this is a weakness or a flaw in your system that a cyber attack can take advantage of and launch a cyber attack on your system. And that threat would be that the actual cyber attack being launched on your system.
All right. So with a vulnerability, you've got a weakness
Yeah.
that can create a threat or an attack.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. And a risk is because that likelihood of that threat or attack happening.
Yes.
That's good. And in terms of protecting against threats or risks and vulnerabilities? Are there mechanisms to help present this? And the question on the screen is, is a difference between assessing vulnerability and doing penetration testing. What is the difference between these two mechanisms?
So a vulnerability assessment and a penetration test are pretty similar. They just have slight differences. So a vulnerability assessment kind of evaluates your systems for any known vulnerabilities, and depending on how critical they are, it'll assign them severity levels and then give you remediations or the best mitigation to patch those vulnerabilities. And during a penetration test, you would actually be launching that cyber attack on your own system, just kind of testing your system security and strength. And it'll provide you, like, if you need any security updates, patches, just as a vulnerability assessment would. So during the penetration test, it would just be, testing your system security and strength.
Well, so a penetration test is about finding vulnerabilities. Is that
Yes,
is
what the vulnerability assessment would be finding the vulnerabilities, and during the penetration test, it would be exploiting those vulnerabilities on your system. So you would be launching a simulated authorized cyber attack on your own system, just to kind of test it and see where your security is or what you need to update within your infrastructure.
okay? And would this get recorded anywhere to inform? Because I guess people like Apple, Microsoft, so everyone would use a combination of different vendors in their IT systems. So when a penetration test happens and an organization tries to attack their own system and finds issues and vulnerabilities, would they have to report that back or store it somewhere? What happens with
Yes,
that?
so the tester would just report any findings or, mitigations, the best responses, or if they did any patches, just doing a report of everything that occurred during the penetration test. And a vulnerability assessment would, give you that list of all of those vulnerabilities and the best mitigation for those.
Right. And what is a three-way handshake?
So a three-way handshake is also known as a TCP handshake or a send send act. And that is the protocol for establishing a connection between a server and a client and a server. So for an example, it'll be like me greeting you and you acknowledge my greeting and greeting me back, and
Yeah.
then us starting a conversation. So during a through a handshake, it'll just be trying to establish a connection, like if you're visiting a website such as Google.
Right. So is that something which happens every time someone opens a website or logs into a page? Where does this handshake happen?
Yes, so it'll just be like if you're trying to visit Google and establish a connection, it'll either, request a connection, approve, or deny it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And in terms of hits and needs, I actually don't know what this means. I was hoping you could tell. So first, what does this acronym stand for, and what is it?
So HIDS is host intrusion detection system, and that's just analyzing, it's an agent that's installed on your machine to collect logs and traffic, and it sends that information back to your SIM. And a SIM is a system of security information and event manager, and you can use a SIM such as Splunk or Security Onion, and it helps you analyze malicious traffic. You can see like who's been trying to access your systems, failed login attempts, and it'll show you how many times it has occurred.
Mm.
So it's like a system, and it gives you logs and alerts and everything, when malicious activity is occurring. NIDS is network intrusion detection system, and
Yeah.
it's similar to HIDS, but it uses a different set of rules, which is called snort and staccato rules. And
Yeah.
during this, you will just sniff your network for traffic, and it'll just pull logs, of any network activity. So NIDS is more so your whole network, sniffing the whole network for any malicious traffic, and his is more so malicious traffic being evaluated for the host of the network.
So is that like the heads would be what needs to happen on the service provider side, if I get that, and needs is what you would need to do on your own private network. Is that right? Did
No,
I get that?
his is more so like host malicious activity. So it's just looking for any malicious activity occurring just strictly on the host side.
Mm-hmm.
And the NIDS would be, just the whole network traffic. So any malicious activity happening throughout your whole network.
So right from the individual user, if I say that, right up to the data centers, I guess, where they
Yes.
store the data. I'm taking notes.
Yes.
That's quite intriguing. And what about a brute force attack? What does that mean in the context of cyber security?
So a brute force attack is when a cyber attacker repeatedly guesses your password until they guess the correct one, and they also
Yeah.
can use like password cracking tools. Some password cracking tools. Um, and to best prevent a brute force, it is recommended to have strong passwords. And I know like most organizations are moving towards passwordless authentication. So it'll just be like sending a push notification to your devices that you
Mm,
have on file, and you'll either approve or deny um, the access, whether you are or not trying to access that system or application.
yeah.
And you can set up multi-factor authentication, and also limiting the number of failed login attempts for your account, and then it will eventually lock the account.
Yeah. That is really interesting because I know some websites now they do two-factor
Yes.
authentication. So is that passwordless authentication removing the need to have a password in the first place, which can be attacked, and two, does that mean maybe in future we completely see the eradication of two-factor authentication? Is that where it's heading?
Yes. So the password list, yes, it essentially removes the need for a password because so many cyber attacks happen daily. So passwords are becoming less reliable or less security feature as they once were. So, passwordless authentication is better, security practices, as it only can get approved by any approved devices that you have on
Mhm.
file. So like when I'm trying to log into my Gmail account. Well,
Okay.
actually, if I log into my Gmail account, I will input my password, but before it allows me access, it will send a notification to like my tablet or my other phone device asking, was this me trying to log in? And
Yeah.
I'm just saying yes or no.
Okay, and that's something I think that has developed quite recently for email protection
Yeah.
now. And how can anyone, either an individual or organization, avoid a brute force attack? Because I guess with an individual, you've got your own accesses to maybe your bank details, your medical records, as an example, and then for organizations, you've got a much wider remit of data and possibly customer information to protect. So how can you avoid a brute force attack?
So to best prevent a brute force, it would be just like, we were discussing the multi-factor authentication, the two-factor authentication. Make sure you're setting strong passwords. Make sure you have like limited login attempts, and then, the account is locked. So, no one can access until it is properly unlocked. And of course, that passwordless authentication as well.
Yeah, that's good. And in terms of securing personal data, what advice would you give people? Like, I guess these days we can't help. Um, well, I don't want to say we can't help ourselves, but we can't help being online because we use it for work, for fun, for play, and it's quite easy to click on a link and just be in the wrong place and have your data stolen. I guess
Yeah.
over COVID, there's been more and more ingenious ways hackers have come up with to get the data they want. So how would you advise anyone on how they can stay safe online?
I would just advise like to just really be mindful of links that you are clicking on, because that will essentially, infect your device with malware, or you could be inputting your personal information and sending it to a hacker, but you may think that you're applying for a job or reaching out to a manager or a coworker, which that would be known as a phishing attack. A cyber attacker posing as some social engineering and a phishing attack, actually. Someone posing as like a trusted figure or authority to gain your personal information. So it's just being mindful and just verifying that you are giving your information to the person that it belongs to, and not clicking on any random links, because you may not know what is going on or what is being infected or causing harm to your devices.
Yeah. And are there any, I know we've talked about authentication, two-factor, and making sure you are the one signing in, but is there any other thing we can do maybe on our devices and apps we use to help stay safe online?
Yes, just checking settings, making sure your settings are configured correctly. um, I know most apps have like location services and stuff like that, but if a hacker gets access to that, they have access to all of your known locations and things of that sort. So it's just, it really just boils down to, strong authentication, um, making sure you're on the correct site, not using fraudulent sites. And I know it's hard because cyber attackers, they will make like a landing page, that's similar and looks, authentic to a regular page that they may be impersonating.
Yeah, yeah. So we all just need to be very, very careful and vigilant. So, in the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned you've been in cybersecurity for around a year now. So, I'd like to ask, is cybersecurity a good career choice?
Yes, it is a great career choice, and I'm glad that I, initially decided to stick with cybersecurity when I was, beginning my technical journey. It is a high demand for the skill right now. There's literally millions of jobs available, and there'll be more coming available in the upcoming years. But it is a very good career choice. It is complex, to learn, but once you learn it, it's easy and stuff like that. But it is a lot of information to take on and learn. So
Hmm.
it is a very good career choice.
Yeah. And what influenced your choice to go into cybersecurity?
I took a course and it was on cybersecurity, but it was like an introduction to cybersecurity. But after the course, I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I just initially took the course because I knew that I wanted to do something in tech, but I didn't realize that that course I was doing was in cybersecurity. So I'm like, tech is so big, it's just a broad range. I was like, I'm going to be all over the place, so I have to pick one place to go. So I just chose cybersecurity, and I noticed, like, just growing up, I always choose like the complex task, or I would do it the long way or the harder way before I figure out how to do it the shorter way. But I'm glad that I chose to do cybersecurity.
Yeah, well, that's really nice to hear. And in terms of some of the basic training, what are some of those basic training people need if they want to pursue a career in cybersecurity?
So I would say the basic training is just to, make sure you understand what cybersecurity is, and, learning and understanding the fundamentals, and joining a community, because, for you have those people that's doing the same thing that you're doing. They're coming up short and having the same issues that you are. If you get stuck somewhere, and it keeps you accountable as well. That's why I'm really grateful for my internship with CyberX Elite, because everyone is just so helpful. And if I'm stuck somewhere or somebody else is stuck somewhere, we're helping each other out. We do study sessions, so just joining a community and a program to just help you advance your skill set, learn the knowledge, and get you ready for advancing your career.
Yeah, so you've taken the internship and hands-on route to get into cybersecurity.
Yes.
That's awesome. And what do you love most about being a cybersecurity analyst?
So what I love about being a cybersecurity analyst, of course, is just, catching and, evaluating the malicious traffic to protect oneself or an organization. But I just like that it's a learning journey for me, because it's not just I'm learning something and it's done. I'm learning new things every day. And even 5 years from now, I'll be learning something that I don't know today.
Yeah, oh, that's good. That's good indeed. And what advice would you give to young women looking to pursue a career in tech? Maybe not cybersecurity necessarily, but what advice would you give around getting your head around a career in tech in the first place?
So I would just say, just do your research and, figure out what sector you want to be within tech. Like I said, joining a community of people, to keep you accountable, to help you when you come up short. Um, Programs, free programs. I do a lot of free, like, courses, modules, that have knowledge checks at the end. So just learning the skill and the topic, and just positioning yourself for your career, and just advancing your skill set.
Oh, thank you so much. That was all really wonderful to hear. And I personally learned a lot from that, and we'll certainly be looking up more hits and needs, because there's nothing quite like being obsessed with a new technical acronym. Thank you so much. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to Charisma speak about cyber security, and I hope you learned a lot. And for women in particular watching this, I hope this inspires you to think about a career in tech. And if cybersecurity is something that interests you, please reach out to Charisma to talk about her experience and find out how you can get your own journey started in cybersecurity, or maybe reach out to me if you want advice and help on getting into other areas or tech. So this is a wrap for our live webinar today. And next time, we'll be bringing you more exciting tech and leadership topics. So do stay tuned and keep your eyes out for our next upcoming event. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Charisma, for joining all the way from Houston.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, if anyone is looking to join tech or cybersecurity specifically, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And, anybody within the LinkedIn community. LinkedIn is very helpful as well. I love LinkedIn.
No worries. Thank you very much, Charisma.
No problem. Thank you, Lydia.
All right. Cheers. Bye, guys.